Hello, this is Michael from the Boardgames Chronicle. Welcome to another material about Conquest Consequence, a game for 3 players describing the developments in the Far East and Pacific during the Second World War, actually before Second World War II, from 1936 till 1945. In my 2 previous materials, first of all, I looked at the components in my unboxing movie, and then in the second material, I described the general rules for this game. Today, I'm starting a small short sub-series when I will be discussing each and every faction separately. Today, we'll start with Japan, then we'll go through the Soviets, last but not least, we'll go to the capitalists. So, without further delay, let us zoom on the militaristic faction, that is Japan. Okay, so I did a zoom on the area where we have Japan, at least at the beginning. So the player playing as Japan sits here. Japan is a militaristic faction, and Japan sees itself as the natural leader of an Asian power, and of course seeks to replace European colonies, imperialism, with its own verse. And they want to establish themselves as a world power. So that's what will happen during this game. And as this is a sandbox game, it's very possible that they will manage to do it. And now let us look at the provinces, at the core provinces, at the colonies, at the capitals. So the Japan is of course here. We have like Tokyo, here we have Osaka province, here we have Kyushu base and Hokkaido, and these are the home provinces. Kuriles are the colony, as well as Manchuria is colony. The Japan has 2 capitals, or even 3 ones. Yeah, we have Tokyo as the main capital, and we have sub-capitals. This is Osaka, and this is Mukden here. Yeah. So this is how does it look like. Important terrains, except for the Japan itself and Manchuria, are of course some of the islands with the bases, namely the Truk being the largest one, and here it is. What else we shall discuss? Yeah, now the track. Each and every faction has its track. I hope this is clearly visible here. Yeah, let me just move it slightly. On this track, we put the counters which measure some of the important metrics for a country. The 3 most important ones are industrialization, population, and resources. Here you can see they are marked with the starting values. When the country does a production at the beginning of a turn, it looks at the population and industrialization if the country is at peace, or at resources, population, and industrialization if the country is at war. You can see pretty clearly that as long as the Japan is peaceful, they have production that is at the beginning 10, because you look at the smaller one. But whenever it starts the war, and then we turn the resource marker over, it will immediately have problems with production, because resources very much limit the production of Japan during the war. So be careful. Unlike other factions, here's one of the most limiting factors for the Japan. What else we see on the track? We see that the starting hand is 7. Yes. Let me just verify with the setup. Yeah, the starting hand 7. It has emergency command of 2. As I told you, in case when you play during the season a card which is not connected with the season, you can move 2 units, but they cannot enter the battle. Then the industrialization cost. The basic is 6, which is much cheaper than other countries. US has 7 and USSR has 8. When attacked, it goes to 5. When attacked by the second power, it goes to 4. Important note, here are the 2 markers which show whether Japan declared war on somebody declared war on Japan. So at the beginning we have peace, so it should be put like this. We have peace with USA and we have peace with Soviets. In case, let's say, US declares war on Japan, we take it out and we see that USA doubt the Japan. What does it mean? That we move one to the right at the cost of industrialization. Important, this is not -1 from 6 to 5, it's just moving to the right. If we will see on Soviet and US example that it's not linear like 6, 5, 4. For US you have 7, 4, 3, so pretty quickly the cost of industrialization goes down. For Soviets it's 8, 6, 4, also pretty quickly going down. Of course, if you declare war on opponent, you have -1 point and your resources go the other way around. So just to remember, the economy of Japan is very much dependent on resources during the war, and during the peaceful cooperation they have pretty good production. Important, attacking the China does not count as an act of war, so as long as they fight in China and there is no war, they don't need to use the resources. Let's talk now about the initial unit setup. I put the units here. The ones which are flipped are, of course, we look from the perspective of the Japan player, so that way. Let me maybe change. So let us have a look at the disposition of initial forces for Japan. I put them in a way so looking from your side, you will see the strength at the top. These are probably the most elaborate forces from all the factions at the beginning of the game. We have pretty nice naval and carrier forces here. We have just cadres for the planes and for the naval unit. We have some infantry here, and we have the fort in Truk. Other than that, we have pretty many cadres. This can be any type of units, like 6 in Tokyo, 4 in Osaka, 2 in Kyushu, some also in Manchuria and on the islands. Just let me see if I have not missed one of them. Yep, of course. There should be one more here. Just put him that way. Exactly. This is what I thought. The initial build-up of the forces is pretty significant for the Japanese. No other country would have so many of them, and no other country would have such a good quality of the troops. So they pretty immediately, even in the year 1936, can first of all beef up the forces, move, for example, to Kyushu, and then from Kyushu and Manchuria attack the Japan, Beijing, Tsingtao, those terrains. This is very important because those will give them the resources, and those resources are critical, as you have seen when I was showing the track for the war effort of Japan. That would be for the disposition of units. Now let me show you also the unit types, but maybe before this, some specials about Japanese. So each and every faction has a very nice play rate in the color of the faction, which helps to set up the game with all the details, and also guides you through some specials for this site. Let us talk about Japan. First and foremost, they have, of course, kamikazes. We can use, if pre-ordered, air units or even the carrier units to act as kamikazes. And they fire at N4. So they will hit the Navy on the roll of 1, 2, 3, 4. And normally, the planes have the attack of N1, carriers have the attack of N2. So this is much more increased. The drawback is, after such attack, they are self-destruct, of course. Second important note is the long lance. So the fleets, those units, hit on N4. So this is a really substantial difference to other countries. They could have hit much stronger Asia's navies than other countries. The third special would be regarding precision optics. The fleets, so those units, will fire first unless the enemy have enemy naval radar. Usually, when you have a battle, let me just do a battle. If we have such situation, U.S. Navy versus Japanese Navy. In such situation, if the US is defender, they would normally roll as first. But not in the case against Japanese. If Japanese are attacking here and there is no naval radar technology on the US side, it's still Japanese who fire first. Very important mechanic, especially at the beginning of the war, when Japanese have definitely an advantage. Another important note is regarding the special sneak attack of Japanese. Normally, when you declare the war, you can fire first before the defender. Of course, each and every unit is in its own turn. So let's say we have such situation. Another example. Let me do it like this. We don't need this navy. Oh, maybe we'll use both navies. Let me check. Fortress is first, Air Force is then, carrier, navy. If we have a such situation and one faction declares war on the other, we'll have a surprise. And this surprise means that the units with the same initiative, the attacker will be first. So in such a case, if Japanese declares war on US, this fort will fire first, then we'll have the plane, then the Japanese carriers and Japanese navy. The same would be true for US. If they attack Japanese, the fort would be first, then it will be the plane, then we'll have the carrier and the naval unit. Japanese has one additional thing. Before the declaration of war and combat faced with surprise attack, they can do a sneak movement through the soon-to-be enemies, and then they can do a sneak raid. Sneak raid can be only done by the carriers and by airplanes, and they will hit the enemy without, if I remember, no return fire, and then can start the actual war. So it can be that the poor guys in Hawaii, just as it was historically, are first of all being hit by the combination of the carriers and airplanes. They take losses, and then the war is declared, and immediately after this there is another battle during which the Japanese once again have an advantage. Of course, then the Americans would be able to respond. So remember about the sneak attack. It's one time possibility, but a very powerful one. One more thing about China for Japanese. They can freely enter the China unrestricted. There are restrictions for Soviets and for US, but for the Japanese, it's unrestricted. They can trace supply, but in order to trace supply, they need to occupy the provinces, and only through occupied provinces this can be traced. Of course, we could have partisans in China, so in order to suppress them, a unit can be devoted to suppression during the battle step, and in order to hit, we roll on the table, on the grand table. In each hit eliminates one partisan, but each 6 create one more partisan. This will be similar for the, for example, nuts in USR. Let me move it back. And now the unit analysis. Let me prepare only the units. So let me now start with the units analysis. As you can see, I put all the unit types with one exception here per faction. So these are the Soviets, this is Japan, and this is the capitalistic countries. And here you can see the types of units from the fastest in the initiative to the lowest in the initiative. What can we say about Japanese? They are definitely one of the two most versatile countries. Only Japanese and US has the full stack of units. Sorry for this. From fort through airplanes, carriers, submarines, navy, tanks, infantry, up to marines. If we look at the particular unit types, we see that they have pretty formidable force, maximum 3 steps, only US has larger. Pretty good planes, 3 steps, only US has larger. Very good carriers, 4 steps, just like the US, and only Brits have also that type of units. Good submarines, 3 steps, only US has larger. Very, very experienced and deadly navy. Remember about this fire first and better fire against enemy navy with 4 steps maximum. Average tanks, only 2 steps. Good infantry, 3 steps maximum. Only Americans more. And of course, the Marines, SNLF, if I remember correctly, the name for the Japanese Marines. All in all, very versatile forces with good naval presence. Look at the carriers, look at the navy, some good planes, forts, poor tanks, average infantry, and really nice to have also. Okay, that will be all for the Japan. As you can see, this is a pretty straightforward militaristic faction, which you can lead both in a peaceful way, and then you just look at the industrialization of the population, or in a more aggressive way, then you need really to focus on resources. They have really good army, very versatile, a lot of options from the beginning of the game, but can be prone really to huge problems if cut from resources. That's everything for today. I will come back to you with the next analysis. This time it will be for solids. Thanks for today, and hear from you soon. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. If you would like to see more content like this, kindly please subscribe. Thank you, and bye for today.